Ghosts are real. This much I know.
Although that wouldn't concern you, would it, Edith? Our very own Jane Austen. She died a spinster, no? Actually, Mrs. McMichael, I would prefer to be Mary Shelley. She died a widow. In that exercise, we have learned 1, I cannot act. 2, I don't know how to do hair. And 3, I have completely forgotten how you tie a tie.
Our very own Jane Austen.
Friends, enemies, lovers. Today we'll be making Edith's nightgown from Crimson Peak. And first we're going to go back upstairs to the studio so I can show you my fabric. Welcome to the messy side of my studio I don't usually show you. See, this is why I don't usually wear my glasses in videos, because the light just catches too much. The fabric that I'm going to be using for my dress, I actually bought coming up on 2 years ago now. Don't fall. Stay. This was actually the first large quantity of fabric I ever bought. It's been here so long, it's slipping off the roll. So it's got a natural crinkle already in the fabric, so I figured that's actually pretty ideal for Edith's night dress. Granted, technically from what I can identify from my amateur skill, the way they made the costume for the film, I think it's that technique where you have like the silk kind of fabric and then you do that pleating gathering thing so that it permanently adds some pleats into the fabric. That is a technique beyond my skill set, although I would love to give it a go someday. So all in all, this dress has very minimal material requirements. We have our main white fabric, and on top of that, I don't know where I've put them. Where would Scatterbrain place them? Think back. And on top of that, buttons. The nightgown has these very small, delicate pearl-like buttons going along the high neck and down, and then along both of the sleeves as well. I ordered a pack of 50, so that should be enough for everything. So they're these really small little buttons made of glass with this pearl finish. I'm actually going to start with the sleeves first. I'm going to start by drafting out a pattern because I'm too cheap to buy one. I'm going to adapt the pattern for the sleeves that I used in my Snow White dress, and I think all of that roughly sounds like I know what I'm doing. Good start. What even is time? I just spent an hour on TikTok. I'm telling you, the ADHD is winning today. Sleeve patterns. I have my Snow White pattern, which is big poof, separate sleeve. I'm gonna use these to combine them and try my best to draft my own balloon sleeve pattern, which was a very common fashion during part of the Victorian period. Honestly, the exact years when that was popular escaped me. But either way, I'm sure that sentence had an end to it. Using assorted objects from the studio, I laid out my Snow White pattern onto a new sheet of pattern paper. So this gives you a rough idea of the way the shape of the sleeve will go. And as you can also see, my table is not big enough and my pattern paper is not big enough. As the paper's quite thin, I'm going to about it by doing like half of the sleeve. So then I'll be able to just easily trace around the other half and tape them together. I've got a rough shape in place, but looking at pictures of my Snow White dress compared to Edith's nightgown, and specifically looking at the poof, I feel like I need to make the poof on this pattern a touch bit bigger, so I need to try and figure out how I enlarge this. Logically, I feel like I just need to bring this wider and then a bit higher, and that should work, one would hope. So I think I'm going to do that. The best advice I can give you is to always label your patterns, people. In an ideal world, this is actually like one of the very rare situations where I would actually make a mock-up to see if it's right, but I'm not sure if I have any fabric that I am willing to use on a mock-up. We're just jumping in and committing to this. Downstairs to cut some fabric. Howdy folks. Been a while since we've been in the living room, hasn't it? I mean, other than this morning, I suppose. This is the kind of size of pattern we're looking at here, and this is just half of it, because I actually need to cut out double. That's how big poof sleeves are. I've got my big roll of fabric, which came even more off the roll as I carried it downstairs. I'm going to be rolling this out on the floor and cutting out my big sleeve. And yes, I did preemptively get up early this morning and thoroughly mop and clean all of the floor because I'm so aware of how white this fabric is. I rolled the fabric out and placed my pattern along the fold to make the full sleeve. I also made sure at this point that the direction of my crinkles matched the direction of the pleats in the actual film costume. Serious, albeit dumb question, can you oil scissors? Because I feel like my scissors have gotten really stiff, and it's not like the actual blades, because those are still sharp and clean. It's the actual join mechanism bit. It's just really stiff. I don't know, do you oil scissors? Is that something people do? I'm actually starting to get major anxiety that I don't have enough fabric, but there's nothing I can do about that other than try not to think about it. Ow, 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 ow. Cramp, cramp. Walk it off, walk it off, walk it off, walk it off. Do we think they'll be big enough? I just stay here now. Guess now we go upstairs and figure out how to sew these. I interrupt this pre-scheduled programming to show you my candelabra. I ordered it online. I should have brought some scissors to open this. I will be right back. I have already forgotten how much I paid for this, but it wasn't much. £15, £20 maybe? The one in the film has 4 candles on it. 4 candelabras do not exist. You can get 3 and you can get 5. But try searching for a 4 candelabra. They do not exist. So I went with 5. I just figure I can put 4 candles on it and no one will know. Except for you guys, because I just told you all. There we go. It makes me very happy, but it is surprisingly heavy. 4 seconds I have been holding this up. My arm is actually aching. This could actually be a workout. Okay, back to it. The dress, it has length, it has a train at the back, and it is also gathered in. The yoke neck piece is like smocked and gathered also to create that effect. Both areas of this require a significant amount of fabric to be pulled off well, which brings me to the issue of I have a limited amount of fabric. I had 9 meters to start with. I'm fairly certain the sleeves have used up approximately a meter, maybe just under, but either way, safe assumption, I have about 8 meters left. I'm not sure that's enough. So either way, something is gonna have to be pared back for me to make this work. And therefore I have been really just in my head about which one I cut out first, because whichever thing gets cut out second is the one that will have to be adjusted because I don't have enough fabric. I have decided to just start with the skirt, and then we will do what we can with the neck with what is left, even if that means just patchworking together a whole lot of cut-offs, because it's a crinkly fabric that's going to be pleated, so I feel like I can hide many sins within it. I very lazily used a tape measure to get a rough measurement for the length of the dress and just eyeballed cutting it. I did the same again for the back panel and added an extra 15 inches or so for the train. I know the light is bad, but just work with me here. I've cut out 2 lengths of fabric for the skirt section. I have enough to cut out a third, but if I do, I am leaving myself extremely little left to do the neck part. So I'm gonna pin the 2 sections I've got and see how that looks, and hopefully I can get away with just using 2 panels instead of 3 for the skirt of the dress. The texture on it, combined with like this big dramatic cape thing I've got going on. It's feeling very White Witch to me. It's a vibe. Once on the mannequin, I felt like I could just about get away with only using 2 panels, even though the shape of the hemline wouldn't be perfect. Thought I'd just pin a piece around the neck just for a little proof of concept. It looks terrible, and yet I weirdly feel reassured that the end result will be decent. Either way, I'm gonna call it a night because I'm really hungry. Early the next morning, I learned that Crimson Peak was definitely the scariest project to leave in the living room so far. And we're back. That was very aggressive. And I feel like I've forgotten how to talk to a camera. I've actually been avoiding it all day because I'm just feeling too introverted to socialise with inanimate objects. I've been trying to work on the sleeves. It has been going terribly. You probably remember that this is pretty much where I cut them out. I have actually started stitching them, and my selvage is now this thick because I made them way too big. I am trying to do the cuffs on them, but here's the issue. The sleeve, obviously you've got giant poof, but we're ignoring that for now because that's also not going well, hugs the arm, like it's very tight against the arm, and then at about here it flares out and actually sits away from the hand and goes right over the top of the hand. So that's what I'm trying to replicate, but it gets even more complicated than that because obviously it is skin tight all up the arm, which means you wouldn't be able to fit your hand through that, which is why it has the pearl buttons along the cuff, which I knew going into this. What I realised yesterday when I was trying to work on this was that these buttons don't just go the whole way up the cuff, they just sit in the middle, and in the actual end of the cuff, the flary bit, is sealed. So it's more just like a hole that opens up just to widen it so you can get your hand through, and then it closes back up again. But I don't know, that just seems more complicated to me. So I've been trying to wrap my head around how to actually make that, and brain is not braining. So that's what I'm working on today. My confidence level on this entire project, it just went from like being real cocky of, oh yes, it's so simple, it's gonna be great, to just being a shriveled little ball on the floor, just like, no. Even if everything goes wrong, I'm just gonna try and push through. Which got me thinking, I need to get my wig ready for a shoot. This in no way means I'm going to style a wig, because I do not know how to do that. It's one of those, depending on what lighting you use, it will either look blonde or it will look like a subtle redhead strawberry blonde kind of deal. So in this light, it looks very orange, but in person, it looks blonde. So it's just a matter of lighting it. But either way, because I was using it for 80s Wonder, it currently has a scrunchie in it that I need to take out. I'm hoping that I can just take this out and I won't have messed it up too much, just so it can just go back to how it was before. Oh dear, oh dear. She's a little bit messy. So it's not fantastic because I messed it up, but it's not completely terrible. So for a quick reveal shoot, it'll do. Put this down in the corner. This was just another way for me to procrastinate actually getting back to these sleeve cuffs. I'm gonna start basic and I'm just gonna put the lace trim on the cuffs. I can handle that. I would take you through what I did for this stage, but I honestly do not know. The cuffs were so tricky that I changed the plan every 5 minutes. All I can tell you is that they ended up with press studs and the buttons for decoration only. Moving on to the neck piece, I cut out 3 widths of the fabric and machined them together to create one extremely long piece. Before smocking this, I hemmed either end, as these would be the points that would meet in the centre front to button up. I decided to create 4 gather points to match the pleat lines in the film. I used the measuring tape to get the distances between the stitch lines to fit my neck and shoulders. Rather than mark the fabric with pen or pencil, I used pins to mark out my 4 gathering lines for me to follow. To smock the piece, I had 4 needles going at once to be able to smock it in sections and then gather as I went. Unfortunately, when I pulled the first section, I felt like it was too bubbly and spread out and felt really loose. I decided to add in a further 2 stitch lines to help the overall shape, the downside being I was now juggling 6 needles and threads at once. Pulling in the fabric this time gave a far better result, so I carried on for the remaining 4 meters of fabric. At this point I realised I'd been working on this for almost 2 hours and barely made a dent. As such, the next few days were not filmed. I just wanted to come on here and let you know that the end is in sight. I have done this much, which is probably about 2.5 meters smocked together, and now I have this length left to do. I'm so close. I'm thinking before I open it out, once I've finished all of it, should I gently press it to get it to hold some kind of shape before opening it out? Or is that a terrible idea? I don't know, but we shall decide that later. For now, on with the show. I'm so happy to not be doing this anymore. I've already pressed it, which actually worked pretty well. It's kind of given it a lot more of a kind of straight structure rather than the bubbly thing it was doing before, which is good. I'm really nervous to open this thing back out. I don't really want to bring my mannequin upstairs yet because it's still got the skirt on. What size are you? It's a little bit too large, but I might still use it just to get the rough shape, if not the size, and then I'll do the size afterwards. Where do I put this? Yoga mat. I am aware how truly strange this footage looks. In normal time, I am just using my fingers to slowly ungather the bottom 3 gather points to create a circular piece to sew over the shoulders, but it looks really weird when it's sped up. I thought to make this I had to make a complete circle, and I've got about 3/4 of a circle here, but this is actually too loose, so I've got to retighten some of it to get the shape back because it's too big. Intentionally left it a bit short of the closing because obviously this mannequin is bigger than I am, so when I put it on me as a mannequin, hopefully that should be the right kind of size that it actually joins together and closes. So providing I've got it all in the right place, I'm gonna tie off the ends of the gathering things so they don't keep coming loose, and then I'm gonna machine here, 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 and here. It's because that's how many lines are in the actual thing as opposed to the 6 gathering points that I've done. Okay, I am determined to get this finished today, so we are entering manic mode. I've got this to the right size now. I've pressed it again to get it as flat as I possibly can because she is thick. And I'm gonna machine in the points to secure them, which I'm hoping will be nice and easy, but I'm kind of scared. And then we're gonna be moving on to sewing the main skirt pleats in. The pleats, gathers, things. After that, we're gonna be attaching the neck to the skirt on the mannequin, then onto sleeves, finishing off the cuffs, wish me luck, and attaching the sleeves to the ensemble. Then I need to take it downstairs so I've got more space, cut the train, hem it all, add all the pearl buttons on, sew on some loops, and we should be done. Now it is a long list of things to do today, so we will see how far manic mode gets us. It's a bit wibbly, but that will do. What was the next? had already sewn the skirt panels together early that morning, so it was time for me to get it back on the mannequin to position the neck piece on top. I cannot think of any way to be able to actually get this underneath the machine to sew it, so I think I might have to hand stitch it, which I really don't want to do for lazy reasons. Sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes the universe has your back, because I'm gonna have to hand stitch this now, and my curved needles arrived yesterday, which means this is going to be so much easier to hand stitch with curved needles because I want to keep it on the mannequin. So, go me. The sleeves was something that I abandoned quite frequently during this project because every single stage of them was just so tricky. To add the press studs, I very professionally used a fine liner to dot the points I wanted to join so that they weren't too loose or too tight. At this point I was feeling pretty tired, so I took them to the bedroom to sew. It didn't take long for me to make a very stupid mistake. I stitched the top ones on the wrong way around, so I had to take them off and redo them. Now whilst they are big and poofy, they are a little bit bingo wing rather than poof. I think there is way too much down here. We're gonna fix that. I'm just gonna redo the seam and just bring it up a bit. So once I fix this, as good as I can fix it, we're then gonna attach it to the main dress and then it's almost gonna be finished. I started out by moving the seam to decrease the amount of fabric sitting under the arm, but I still wasn't thrilled with the shape. After pondering it for a little bit, I formulated a new plan. Here is the original stitch line that created massive bingo wings. Here is the new line I stitched in to try and eliminate bingo wings. It didn't entirely work and the shape just felt still not right, but I think I figured out how to get the shape how I want it. I am essentially gonna have it coming from up here and I'm gonna cut away this excess fabric to about here-ish. So I'll have it like curving up like that. Because then that way, underneath the arm, we'll only have a little bit of fabric gathered. Because it will literally just be this length. Whereas above the arm, we'll have all of this to ruffle up and create volume above the arm, but not underneath the arm. And I sincerely hope that works, because once I've committed to it, I'm stuck with it. That is my theory, and it is the last thing I'm going to try, and however this turns out is what I'm going to stick with, because we have got to move past these sleeves. I drew out my new shape with some pins and then proceeded to stare at it frozen in complete self-doubt for at least 5 minutes, if not longer. Finally, I took the plunge and committed to my new sleeve plan. Let's just take a moment to appreciate my genuine shock that this worked. And this is how the sleeves looked in their final form. I used my pins to mark where I wanted to sew the pelt buttons on, which I plodded on with during a High School Musical marathon. I followed the same method for the cuffs as well, and just in case you wondered how this process actually looks in real time, moving on, next came the button loops. For the train, I just completely eyeballed it. I marked out a rough shape using pins and then just cut away at it. To be able to replicate it accurately to the film, I would have needed to use the 3 panels so that it had the right volume instead of just the 2. Which brings us to the final step of the project. Well, this one has been quite the journey. I'm going to keep it brief because this video has been my longest ever. Thrilled with how the neck turned out. Wished I'd made it a little bit shorter because my shoulders aren't as wide as I measured, clearly. The sleeves were pretty much out to get me from the start. The cuffs, I couldn't even begin to describe how hard these were to do, but I'm so glad that they are complete. The puffs, I'm actually really happy with how these turned out. They are obviously not as big as the ones in the film, but I'm just happy I managed to salvage the right shape, and if I ever remake this with an actual expensive, more accurate fabric, I like that I now know how to actually do that. As for the dress as a whole, I freaking love it. I just need to find some very haunted looking houses to be able to do some full-on shoots in. To wrap things up, I just want to say a humongous thank you to anyone who actually watched for this long, because I'm aware this video has been so very long. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, it means so much to me. As usual, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please keep an eye on my community tab because I am going to be asking some questions about some future projects that I have been planning, and I would really appreciate some advice/feedback on. I hope you stick around to see some more of my projects, and I will see you all in my next video. The sleeves are ginormous. I interrupt this pre-programmed scheduling. Blah. Pre-scheduled programming? Yeah. I don't know anymore. And 2, let's just stick with 1.